It's finally unmuted. Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the Riv, and of course we have to report on the gunfire around CJ's house. I don't know if they were aiming at you, but they didn't hit you at least, so that's good. So
They didn't hit my house either. They hit another house. So yeah,
there was,
about 15, 16 bullets fired.
yeah, yeah.
When you
You
went
know,
when you went by the street, Tecumseh Street, it was at Tecumseh in Dover. Um, they had the police tape up blocking the streets, and they had all the yellow cones up on the street. You could see it everywhere. So I went out to try to find a flak jacket. I even called you for one.
yeah. Well, they might have a couple of old ones from uh, the Vietnam era in the surplus stores. I don't know, but then again, you know as well as I do. As soon as you pick one of those up, the Department of Justice and the FBI will be tracking you
I
because
know.
you're not a liberal Democrat. If you're a liberal Democrat, you can have anything you want. But
That's it.
if you're a conservative, you're in deep doo doo. But again, there's no crime, there's no machinations going on in Fall River. And I know on the weekend flush, you talked about the deed and about all these you know kind of backroom devious deals that we're seeing now. Um, are they going to bring up the armory before the new council comes in? Why isn't it on the agenda? Why Joe Camara? Well, Joe Camara is working in concert with the mayor. We know that, and everything is a backroom deal, and it's going to be very interesting. I think you brought up some really great points about the deed, and let's see how they can ignore the law or manipulate the law or bend the law so they get around this, and Paulie can give it to his pal from Westport. Because remember, what the people want is irrelevant, and that's the key. And we're getting less and less for our money now. I know there's inflation, but $75,000 for something that the rumor is not too many people were really pleased with what they got for that 75,000, and that one really wasn't opera money anymore. You kind of touched upon that in the flush, and it's just look. The guy's a third term. It's his last term. He knows the city's going to crash and burn. He's running around now. All of a sudden, there's no money. There's no money. We got no money. Diamond's coming. Diamond's coming. Well, you didn't know Diamond was coming. Everybody knew Diamond was coming. Everybody knew that Durfee was coming. Everybody knows we got a debt override. Everybody knows that you were going to look at a debt override before you got the ARPA money. So we got all this stuff coming. Now he's a lame duck. He's not going to run again because they'll lynch him when they see the last budget he puts in, and the city's on the verge of receivership. So, but it's irrelevant to him because he's not going to worry about getting reelected again, and he doesn't care about his quote unquote legacy, as some of these people worry about. He won't run for political office again. He got what he needed to get out. He got all his friends jobs. He made all his other friends rich. They got their fingers into everything, all the insurances, everything else. They all got their part of the pie. They ate it, went back to Greg's and bought some more, and now it's going to be it's just going to be a mess in the next 2 years, and how many sheeny deals they can come up with. So with that, CJ, you can talk a little bit about your some of the things you talked about in the flushes.
Well, the thing that gets me is that this man wasn't elected because he was a good mayor. This man was elected because the people didn't come out to vote. And the people that did come out to vote owe him. They owe him for jobs, they owe him for his activities at the school, and the fact that he's a nice guy. I don't elect my politicians because they're nice guys or anything. I elect them because of what they're going to do, what they may have done, and that's the way it should be. One of the things that really bothers me is the fact that it's coming out of government center that this council may not get the opportunity to vote and put an end to the Bank Street Armory issue. And that it's going to be carried over to the next city council. Why? Because the mayor will have 2 more votes on that council. So he'll get whatever he wants. See, there's a reason behind these endorsements. There's a reason behind this because you've been endorsed. Therefore, you owe me. You got reelected because I endorsed you. So you owe me. And we see that already with Laura Washington. Okay? Whatever the mayor sends down, she doesn't have a word to say about it. Nothing negative. Oh, this is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And then when they're called out about the, like for instance, on the money, the ARPA money for EMS, what happens is that she said, "Oh, well, you're going to use this for seed money," because all of a sudden EMS got slammed because they had applied to the city side for this EMS money. And I don't know if they got it or not. According to Oliveira, they didn't get it. They haven't bought anything, but the city council gave it to them. Now, if they got it on both sides, I want to know why. They're an enterprise fund. They should be able to buy their own equipment without using taxpayer money. They bill enough for an ambulance ride. I saw a bill recently for one, $1,500. $1,500. Not for paramedic services, for an ambulance ride. A ride between one hospital to another. $1,500. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, especially when somebody doesn't have insurance. Now, what's interesting is if you go to Tiverton and you're a Tiverton resident and EMS in Tiverton picks you up, you don't get a bill. Why? Because your taxpayer dollars are already paying for it. But God forbid Florida even think of doing something like that. It would be unheard of. That wouldn't be right. Giving the taxpayers something they've already paid for? Oh my God. How dare you even consider that? So now we're going to start doing home care. Why? Why are we going to do home care? Oh, well, we're going to save time in the ERs. Have you seen what the emergency rooms look like now? The waits are extenuating 6-9 hours. Yeah, well, I know they've got long waits. The problem is we have those emergency rooms being used as primary care because the people either don't have insurance or they're immigrants or they're illegal immigrants, and we have to provide them with everything. It gets to be questionable on where do we stop. Right now in the House and the Senate up on the Hill, they're debating on whether or not to fund a $3 million supplemental budget. And what's that supposed to pay for? Emergency housing for illegal aliens. That's where they want to spend your tax dollars. And guess who put the kibosh on it over the weekend? The Republicans. Imagine that. The Republicans actually, they got what, 12? They got 12 in the House, maybe? And they were able to object to it or use a procedural maneuver to stop it from going forward. So they're bringing it. So like Paul, they're bringing it up again today. Because we're going to talk about it today. This is where your money's going, people. This is where your money's going. Just remember that when you get your next tax bill or you don't get your tax refund, remember, that's where your money went.
Well, CJ, you brought up a very, very important point I think a lot of people miss. What is the government for? You know, I don't even know if Laura Washington knows what seed money actually is. But you don't need seed money in the government because this isn't a business. A government's job is to provide the necessary services to the people who are actually the government, the people. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. A government is made up of men, the people who it represents. Its job is to provide, as it says in our preamble, domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare for ourselves and our posterity. That's what a government is for. Andrew, are you listening? I want to know what our return is. This isn't a business. You are part of a government. This is a democratic republic, representative form of government. You represent the people. The people do not want to run a business. They want to pay taxes for necessary services to make their community have safe streets, good education. That's what we pay our tax. Not for seed money. Not to start a medical business. Are we in bed with the hospitals? We're providing home service. EMS. What does E stand for? Laura. What does E stand for? Andrew and the rest of the council? Emergency. That ambulance service was created to provide emergency medical service, not be an arm of the hospital. The hospital's going to make money off this too. And as you said, they're an enterprise fund. They should buy their own equipment. We shouldn't be in that business. How much are you getting kicked back from the board of directors of Charlton, Paulie? How much money did they give you? Who came up with this idea? I was here when we started EMS. I was one of the first people to ride on an ambulance because I was an EMT. We provided emergency medical service. That's what we did. That's what it was created for. It was not created to be some kind of appendage of the hospital. They have private ambulance services. They have hospitals. And you're right, CJ. Hospital emergency rooms are overwhelmed. Why? Well, number one, because too many people don't have a primary care physician and they use it as a walk-in center. But that's the hospital's problems. And now they're overwhelmed with illegals who don't have any primary care or even medical coverage. But that's the hospital's problems. And they get us into this and they talk about seed money and what are we going to get for a return? You know what I want for a return on my taxes? And I was paying taxes I know I was paying taxes before you were born, Andrew and Laura. I want my money spent on public safety and things to benefit the people of the city of Fall River, not to create all kinds of sophisticated new businesses. You are in the business of serving the people. That's the business you're supposed to be in. All this is I don't know where, how we took this. Well, I know how we took this road because you people owe all the big money people and they're all involved in this. How Charlton Memorial has remained, South Coast or whatever euphemism they want to call it, has remained a non-profit hospital so they can't really get sued this long. They spent I don't know how many millions of dollars in there for you. I want to know what their board of directors make right now. What do they meet once or twice a year? And they're all probably making nearly $1 million. And they're all politically connected people, rich people, most of whom don't live in the city of Fall River. But they get all the money, just like all the developers do. And what do the rest of the people get? Nothing. They're out in the street. 2/3 of the population are living paycheck to paycheck. But you think these people care about you? You are nuts. You are delusionary. If you think these people are working in your interest, and like CJ said, you weren't elected by the majority of the people. You weren't even elected by anywhere close to a majority of the people. You were elected by a bunch of political hacks who owe shit or want shit. And until the rest of the people get off their asses and start getting to the polls, it's going to stay this way. You say they don't care about you? You're right. But you don't care enough to get out and vote. So let's see what happens when we run out of money and Diamond and Paulie's in front of the council going, we don't have any money, we don't have any money, we don't have any money. Forget about all the money I spent in my terms as mayor. Forget about all the pay raises I gave out. Forget about all the other money I blew on opera to give to all my friends and do nothing really for the city of Florida. Just forget everything. Just remember me whining. I'm a nice guy. I don't yell at women on the islands. We're short of money. No, we have to cut everything unless you pay more taxes. Well, guess what? I think in the next election, everybody in this council better fasten their seatbelts, because I think the next time these people run, you may see 1995 on steroids. And with that, back to you, CJ.
You know, the sad part about it is that people don't learn from history. They don't learn from experience. And what's the old saying? Those who forget their history are destined to repeat it. Well, that's what we are. We're repeating it. And I know that we have Michelle Dion, who is pushing and lobbying to take on the Bank Street Armory at the next city council meeting, which is in about a week, 10 days. And because she wants to have this council finish this process, not the new council, this council, which I think is right. This is something that this council started and this council should end, not pass the buck, which they do all the time. But I want to know, and I've been saying this for a very long time, the exact amount of money I am assessed on my tax bill every year for the debt exclusion. And the mayor has not wanted to have that provided. And the assessor says, well, that's a lot of work and we can't do that. You could do it with the CPA though, couldn't you? You were able to put that on right away, right after it passed the ballot. It was right on there. No waiting, no waste of time. The people want to know what they're paying, and they want to know what they're paying for. And when you can't give them the information that they are entitled to, that's a problem. This is the shadiness of this government. This is the shady deals that this government cuts. We don't know how much it is. And then he said he was offsetting that exclusion money using ARPA money. He pissed away $88 million of ARPA funds. $88 million. That's not chump change. $88 million. That could have done a lot. Oh, but I gave $13 million to the water department. And you set it up so that the water department work that they did on the streets that they did on also needed sidewalks, so the sidewalks got done at the same time. Okay? Cost effective? I don't know. Smart? Probably. But still, it's not what the people were looking for. They were looking for some savings on their water bill. So far, they haven't had anything. I had the water inspection, the water department inspection this past weekend. I found out that I don't have any lead service in my house, so I should be all set, which is nice. But again, why haven't we addressed this lead service issue before this? If there are houses that have lead services in, why haven't they addressed it before this? It's not like lead poisoning is something new. It's not like all of a sudden it happened overnight that, oh, lead's poisonous to the body. We've known this. We've known this. We knew that fluoride was good for your teeth in Fall River, but we stopped using it because it cost too much. We don't do anything that's good for the people. Everything costs too much, according to this government. We pay the bill, and I would rather pay the bill for good, clean water, lead-free service, adequate police, adequate fire, and adequate EMS. You'll notice I said adequate. I'm not saying I want the full force. I'm not saying we have to fund them totally so they can fill every open position. But I want it at least adequate. At least adequate. Because we deserve that because we're paying for it. And I know the one statement that politicians, police, fire, EMS, city workers all hate to hear is, I pay your salary. While they may hate to hear that, it is the truth. We are paying your salary. But we're all paying your salaries. Why? Because it's all of our government. And the bills that you make are our responsibility. Not yours, they're ours. So when you give your friend a $100,000 a year job after he was caught doing mechanical work on company time with company property, I have a problem with that because I'm paying for that. So that mechanical work on somebody's car, truck, whatever the case may be, isn't free. Somebody is paying for it besides the owner of that vehicle. Because the owner of the vehicle is paying for it, but they're paying for the parts and labor from the gentleman that's doing the work. But the gentleman who's doing the work is getting the parts from the city, and the labor is on the city dime. So he's double dipping one way or another. This is what we have. And instead of that person being fired, what did Paul do? Split the department in half and made him a supervisor. Made two supervisors. So two friends got jobs paying $100,000 a year. This is what Paul does. Take care of his friends. Sometimes you wonder, maybe I should be his friend. Forget that.
Well, you know, the irony of this is that you always look at undermanning in fire and police. They don't hire people immediately so they can keep the salaries and turn it into free cash. But what they never run out of is hiring people to shore up their incompetent hires, not in public safety or in DPW or DCM now or whatever it is. You don't see the workers being hired. You see all the big money jobs being hired. You see, now we had Mary Sahadi, who, like I said, she knew the numbers. She fudged them a lot, and I didn't like that. But you could not say she didn't. If you pressed her, she knew the numbers. She didn't need Aya Capone and a new financial, whatever the euphemistic title they gave her, financial analysts. And we got more analysts and every kind of BS kind of title attached to it. We got 6 people to do the job of 1. We got a CFO now that needs all kinds of help. We got a CFO that went before the council and asked if she reviewed the numbers on the police contract, said no. My staff did. Well, guess what? If they made a mistake, that's on you. The buck stops with you. Oh, no, it doesn't. You got a consultant, a financial analyst. The superintendent of schools is making nearly $250,000 a year. They got 6 assistant superintendents of schools, plus all the principals and the vice principals. Paul came from the biggest patronage pit the world has ever seen, the public education system. The credo in the public education system is, let's see how many people we can hire to screw in a light bulb. If we can hire 50 to screw in one light bulb, let's do it. Because they have to give us money. And now you got somebody from that side of the government over on the city side, and he brought that over with him. We got a water department head, and the old water department head is still a consultant. It's a beautiful thing. You get hired as a department head, you don't have to do anything. You keep the old department head, throw in a couple of consultants, hire a few analysts, hire a few other people, and then the job still doesn't get done. You want to know where your money goes? Take a close look at the budget. Check out check the assistant superintendent's salaries and their benefits. Is your school committee and your city council doing their job when they approve budgets where you got somebody that's getting paid $250,000 and running a school system that's ranked 336 out of 351 cities and towns in this state is getting $250,000 and needs all these assistants? Well, apparently the superintendent is not capable of running a system. You shouldn't need 6 high-paid assistants. You got principals to run every school. The principals have got vice principals. It's not that difficult. I mean, if you look at the military, who does all the work? The non-commissioned officers. They're the ass kickers. The infantry does the work. They don't need 100 generals down on a battlefield. They need soldiers. And they need people who know how to run those soldiers. We have so much fat in government. Like I said, my pal Milton Friedman said it, and I used it again. If you give the government the Sahara Desert, they'll run out of sand in 5 years. That all they know how to do is blow your tax money, and they don't even do it with things that benefit you, the taxpayer. Take those 6 assistant superintendents of schools and turn them into firefighters and police officers. Because for every one of those, you can hire at least 2.
How about a teacher? How about a teacher?
Yeah, well heaven
now
forbid.
there would be an idea, right?
Yeah, well, you're right, CJ, but then again, that would be logic, and the government is not logical. It's not like a business. They're the antithesis of logic. So we had Shelley Pereira saying, we want more money. We need more money to what? To hire more assistant principals, more assistant superintendents of schools. Well, no. How about earmarking that money to programs in the classroom? How about hiring more teachers? How about giving the teachers' aides more money? How about giving the people that are making crap more money? No. Give all your friends, like you said, you see it right on the head. Take the guy that's been working illegally and should be in jail for what he did. Take him, and reward him. Take the guy who filled out an illegal overtime form and don't fire him, but he ended up in jail anyway. Not because of the city, but because, you think that should have been a tip-off? You should have got rid of him? No, not a chance. Not a chance. The government in this city, I mean, look, all governments are just mosh pits of waste and pork. But this city is arguably one of the worst I've ever seen. I mean, there's virtually no consideration of providing services to the taxpayers. And you elect these people. Well, not you. You don't show up, half of you. 40,000 people minimum that were registered to vote didn't vote. Last time I checked, that was nearly 6 times the amount of people who voted. You're going to let the lunatics run the asylum? You're going to let the political ticks who are voting to get their friends and themselves more pay raises and jobs run the city? Well, if you don't vote, that's exactly what you're doing. So don't bitch, because you brought it on yourself. And with that, CJ, back to you.
Well, it's obviously we've run out of time, so I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And demand that your bills are shown and the money is shown to you on your tax bill. Demand it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday.